Well, good afternoon, everyone, and excited to be here. And I want to thank Maureen and Craig in particular for continuing to invite Ocuphire. We want to say we always have new data and new milestones to share. We're a public company. We trade on the NASDAQ as OCUP. We've been public for about 2 years, and we're really proud of some of the progress we've made over that time. So for those who may not know Ocuphire, we actually have 2 assets and multiple indications. We have an oral drug for Retina, which I'm going to focus on in this meeting, and then only touch briefly on our other asset, which you heard Beatrice and Jeff talk about earlier, which is the eye drop, Nixol. And I think what's important for you all to know is 5 years ago I founded the company, and I've got a great team, and we're a small team, and we have done incredible work. We have basically taken 2 assets that were early phase 2 and essentially bring one to a PDUFA date. This is to build off of some of the celebration of Oasis and many others that have PDUFA dates. We also have one as well for Nixol, as you heard, on September 28th. But importantly, we have been working to help diabetic patients with their eye disease and everyday vision for those that age. Our goals are ambitious, of hundreds of millions of people in the United States and around the world to impact. So that's what we focus on, and we're proud of our advancements. So let's talk about Retina. So today we have not heard about the problem of non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy, which is 7 million of the 8 million diabetic retinopathy subjects that are out there. About 1 in 4 subjects diabetics, as they age in the first or second decade, will have eye disease. And today, it is weighed and monitored by the entire field in the ophthalmology area, whether it's retinal doc, the ophthalmologist, or the optometrist. We want to change that and have a solution which is convenient and oral, and that is what we're working on. But again, although Eylea, Lucentis are available and approved, they are not used because compliance in a diabetic population for life is something that's not practical. So with that as our goal is to provide a solution to that problem and large unmet need, we have a product that's very differentiated. It's a novel chemical entity that's oral. So first and foremost, that's very unique. 2 is we have a dual mechanism. It's an anti-VEGF and an anti-inflammatory by targeting an upstream transcription factor, which we inhibit. And so just there alone, everyone realizes that diabetic patients in particular don't just have VEGF and leaky vessels, they also have inflammation, which is causing a lot of their comorbidities. So we can get at that. Third is that this opportunity is one with lots of data. So we actually acquired or licensed in the asset, and it had 10 studies done by Eisai in Japan in the liver space, and it had 1 study here done in America by Apexion in cancer. And if you think about it for a moment, those are the basically histories of inflammation and cancer for the products that are used today, such as steroids and anti-VEGFs. So with that data set and with our differentiation, we went into 2 years ago a phase 2 well-controlled study called Zeta-1. And we're proud that just a month ago we reported our top-line results. So it's still sort of breaking news, and we're educating both the retinal communities and now today the optometry community as well. And this study was designed to basically be our 12th human study, but our first ophthalmology study. And the goal in a phase 2, for all those that may not be active drug developers as their day job, is to identify and go through the data to identify a registrable endpoint and look at all your endpoints, not just your primary, and also obviously finalize your dose. So with that in mind, and 100 subjects were recruited, and we had a 24-week endpoint, and we had multiple endpoints, as you can see here. By the way, this was all done in the US, 25 sites, and we recruited in under a year, so very proud of some of our execution capabilities. So I want to pause for a moment and talk about endpoints. So as that list of endpoints, we did miss our primary. We'll just come out and tell you that slight disappointment, but it actually doesn't matter that much, because what matters is that in those pre-specified endpoints, we had a registrational endpoint that we've now had preliminary dialogue with the FDA. We'll have formal dialogue in our end of phase 2 meeting, that if you have a systemic or oral drug, and this is for the good of the field, you need to evaluate both eyes. All of us in the field, there's about 8 oral drugs that have been tried over the last decade. Everyone's been using the same endpoint, which is the Eylea endpoint, which is 2-step improvement in your DRSS score, looking at one eye. It turns out you need to evaluate both eyes. You can look at worsening or improvement, which the GA companies, obviously, as well as the childhood myopia, were looking at worsening or slowing the progression. And instead of 2 steps, you got to raise the bar to 3 steps if you're going to evaluate 2 eyes. So it's actually quite logical, and it turns out that that's actually a very interesting registrable endpoint for us with our oral drug. So let's look at the data of the binocular data. So this is here, and you can see we did show improvement, but we really had the strongest signal on the worsening. And it turns out that that makes more sense with our mechanism. So what I didn't say earlier on the mechanism is what we really can do is stabilize VEGF and inflammation. We don't drive it below baseline like the other treatments, like an anti-VEGF. And so it's actually a perfect fit to think about preventing progression. But let's take a little closer look at that endpoint. So we had 16% of subjects that were on placebo had a 3-step or more worsening on the surrogate approvable DRSS endpoint, and 0 on APX330 at 24 weeks. And importantly, in our phase 3, we'll use this endpoint, but we'll measure at week 52. And time will be our friend when you're looking at progression of a disease and worsening. So we estimate from historical data from Lucentis Rise and Ride, as well as our own trend here, probably be in about the mid-20s, the placebo. And we look forward to continue to have a nice spread of 10 or 15%. We already had statistics with an N of 100, so again, thinking about the size of a phase 3, we'll probably double that size for the phase 3 program. And importantly, function. We also saw a trend that there was a worsening on the placebo arm compared to active. So again, it's just early data, but the point is that we actually have structure and function going in the same direction. So we're actually quite excited on these results, and we look forward to continue to share both the education on the endpoint and our data. So let's switch to safety. So that was all about efficacy. Safety was pristine. I mean, I want to use the word excellent. It was better than we had expected. This is an oral. Every oral before us has failed. There's at least 5 I can count. There's probably a few more that I'm not aware of. They were TKIs, they were plasma kallikreins, they were anti-VEGF, and a few other mechanisms, Tie2, also sub-Q as well as oral. And they failed due to safety. Safety from either liver, heart, GI in particular. Those are probably the 3 culprits that I would call out. And we don't see any of those signals. Actually, you'll notice that the AEs are greater on the placebo arm than they are on the APX arm. And the only signal we saw was a little bit of pruritus or rash, which we did see in our prior studies. So again, this is consistent with over 300 subjects that were studied by Eisai and Apexion, and now us out to almost 6 months or 24 weeks. So we're really excited on this safety profile for an oral. So that leads us to this overall product profile to summarize and say, for this program, it's a really nice benefit risk. And we're not just going to stay in our lane for non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. That's just where we're starting. There is an opportunity for doctors to use it across the retina field because we're getting upstream of VEGF and we have an anti-inflammatory, and it's oral, and it's got this really nice safety profile. So think about APX as a statin for the eye. We want to reduce the risk of vision loss or progression. And just to bring it home to optometry, to some of the points that Paul made earlier, this is perfect fit for your area and discipline. 7 million of the 8 million individuals have non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. It's currently wait and monitor. You can co-manage or primary manage these subjects and prescribe potentially this drug. So we're really excited on working with not only the retinal community, but also the ophthalmology and optometry community for this product, and maybe even primary care docs as well. So I'm going to take just a few moments about Nixol. Again, many of you have heard our updates, and Jeff did a nice job as well this morning sharing some of our indications. But what is Nixol? So Nixol, or phentolamine ophthalmic solution, is an alpha-1 blocker that works on the iris dilator muscle to make a moderately smaller pupil. And because of the muscle that we're interacting with, we don't touch the sphincter muscle or the ciliary muscle, so we have a really nice safety and tolerability profile. And I just want to say that we've had 6 positive data readouts on 6 positive data readouts across all of our indications. We're a platform. We're the only drug that reduces pupil size. It's a platform. So we have reversal of mydriasis with the PDUFA date for September 28th. We have night vision disturbance where we improve 3 lines of night vision gain. And we have presbyopia results where we have 30 to 50% efficacy, whether you're looking at 3-line gain or 2-line gain. We have no headaches. We don't have a risk of retinal detachment. And we work 24 hours. And you heard about the deal. I just want to say that's one of the best things we did last year was this transformative partnership We've licensed it. We are not bought by Viatris. They are a partner. We work collaboratively on our programs, but they will be the US and global commercialization partner for this asset. And with that, I'll end with, we still have more milestones to tell you about this coming year. We'll have our end of phase 2 meeting on the retinal program. We'll have presbyopia phase 3, which is ongoing. Some of you here are on our sites. And we also will have, hopefully, the opportunity to commercialize Nixol with the PDUFA date and positive readout from that. So thank you so much.